My name is Eric Prosher, and I represent Jessie Brown VA Medical Center. And you're watching a live call-in interactive program brought to you by Can TV 21. And today we have a special guest, one of our health psychology interns, Aviva Ariel Donges. And we're going to be talking about veteran smoking cessation over the next 25 minutes. So call in with your questions at 312-738-1060. Aviva, hi.
Hi.
Thank you for coming on the show. I'm glad we finally got you in here. We've been talking about it for months now. So the topic is veteran smoking cessation. So can you give us an idea of, first, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and your involvement with veteran smoking cessation and veteran health? I should also say that May is Mental Health Awareness Day, so I think this definitely ties in.
Absolutely. So as the health psychology intern at the Jessie Brown VA, I'm involved in a wide variety of programs that we have to promote health and prevent disease in our veteran population. One of those services is helping veterans quit smoking, if that's something that they're open to doing. So I've been involved in our group counseling for smoking cessation. I'd be happy to talk a little bit about that, as well as our Great American Smokeout event earlier in the year. And it's something that I'm very passionate about, as we're going to speak about tonight. Smoking cessation is a very important way that veterans can improve their health and prevent long-term disease and early death.
Okay. First, I shall ask, and maybe I'm just so naive, I'm a little bit of a health nut myself, but I'm like, it's 2019. Is smoking still a thing, Aviva?
Oh, great question.
Yes.
So although smoking has decreased significantly over the past about 40, 50 years, so back in 1965, we had 40% of the population were smokers, and it's decreased year after year since then, to the point where only about 15% of our population smokes. But not only is that 15% still kind of sticking around, but rates are even higher in the veteran population.
So you're telling me that the veterans smoke at a higher rate than civilians?
Yes, that is true.
Wow.
There's a number of different reasons that may be.
Why might that be? Even though I do remember a little bit when I was on active duty in the Navy, that oftentimes, boot camp at the time was like 9 weeks. You could not smoke during boot camp. And we were always shocked that more people smoke after boot camp than when they started, than before boot camp. Mm-hmm. So what was that about?
Sure.
I imagine there's some social contagion and influence and part of the... Well, why don't we talk about a little bit about what that one? What are some reasons why that could have been?
Yeah, so in general in the population, smoking kind of cuts across racial, ethnic groups, socioeconomic groups, geographic locations, but there are people in certain situations that tend to have higher rates of smoking, specifically veterans. And that harkens back to even in World War II, when the tobacco companies specifically targeted the military and started giving cigarettes in the rations. So that continued in Vietnam. So there's a culture within the military that perhaps normalizes smoking more than a general population might. But there's also things that our military personnel and then veterans experience that's different. So that can include the stress of the position of being in the military, the stress of readjusting to life after the military, becoming a veteran. We also tend to see higher rates in the veteran population involved in the VA of psychiatric comorbidities, and that in and of itself can predict higher rates of smoking. So there may be a culture within the military where it's perhaps more acceptable to continue smoking. It may also be there's a lot of downtime, whether or not you're deployed or in active duty at the time, where you need something to de-stress and bide your time, and cigarettes are an easy way.
You're standing watch, there's nothing to do, there's boredom, and you need to stay awake, and nicotine is one of those weird chemical substances, and it's kind of like it's a stimulant, but it also it increases your heart rate, but relaxes your muscle at the same time. So it's got a paradoxical effect on your physiology.
Exactly.
Wow. So, well, why don't we hear a little bit from veterans about their smoking experience and their encounter with the VA. So those at home, stay tuned.
I never actually smoked before I was in the military. Everybody else was doing it when we were on deployment, and at times it seemed like it was the only thing to do.
What should I ask you next?
I mean, I started out smoking maybe 6 packs a day. If there's time to stand around, well, then it's time to go out and smoke. And in the military, there's a lot of hurry up and wait kind of situations, so there are plenty of opportunities to smoke.
I think it started as a lack of something to do. Nervous energy, boredom, and sometimes just something to help me stay awake and alert. If I was by myself and just wanted to be around people, I'd go and smoke.
And smoking right after meals was like a ritual. But it also was whenever I got stressed out.
The stress didn't even have to be anything extreme. I found that I catch myself smoking a lot more when I was in the process of doing something new, you know? The anticipation and having to deal with something that just made me a little bit more uncomfortable than normal. Smoking made my deployment a lot more tolerable.
Unfortunately, I injured my back over there, and I have never had to deal with anything like that before. I mean, the nerve pain that just does not seem to get better over time.
I knew I had to find a better way to deal with my pain. I have a 3-year-old daughter, you know? She's got a lot of energy in it, and keeping up with her was a real motivator to quit smoking. I noticed that I would smoke a cigarette, and then I feel like I couldn't breathe, or I get a coughing spell. That started to scare me because I want to see my daughter grow up.
I mean, I've been smoking heavily since my deployment, and no one had even talked to me about quitting right up until the end of my military career. So I hadn't made quitting a priority before coming home.
I tried to quit myself without any help a whole bunch of times, but I start right back up again. I knew I needed someone in my corner, you know, to help me stick with it. The VA offered me that support, and I needed to stop smoking and stay quit.
I mean, once I talked to my doctor about wanting to quit, I found out the VA offers like all sorts of things to help. Nicotine replacement, medications, counseling, and there's even a website.
So that was a great video, and within that, the veterans have talked about a lot of things that you've identified already: the comorbid pain, medical conditions, the boredom, coping with stress, and there was also, that's why we're here too. They didn't know a lot of information about how to stop and what the resources there to stop, which we're going to get into. But before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about the challenges of quitting smoking?
Yeah, quitting smoking is an incredibly difficult thing to do. And for a lot of our veterans, they've been smoking 20, 30, 40 years. And essentially we look at it in terms of what are the factors that are making smoking so hard to stop. And research has shown, and I've heard this from veterans in our groups, that veterans have been able to quit heroin, to stop using crack, but they still haven't been able to stop smoking cigarettes. And that's because smoking is related to both a chemical addiction process and a behavioral addiction process. So when you think about quitting smoking, you think about the addiction to nicotine in your body. So nicotine in itself releases neurochemicals like dopamine, the feel-good neurochemicals, and creates a process that each time you stop smoking, your body's craving that new surge of dopamine, and if it doesn't get it, you get physiological signs. You get, sweating, shaking, discomfort. So we want to address in treatment the physiological or the body addiction to the nicotine. We also want to address the behavioral components of tobacco addiction. So when you're smoking, there's parts of it that are beyond just the chemical addiction. And that's the behavioral component where you're used to, in your habit, in your daily life, you wake up, you have a cigarette. You have a cup of coffee, you have a cigarette. Something stressful happens, you have a cigarette.
The veteran talked about the ritual
Yes.
after eating. These are habits.
Yes.
Big habits, keystone habits.
So, it's really difficult to just say, I'm going to cut out this piece of my life that's there, every couple of hours. The other thing is that, as you mentioned earlier, nicotine is something, and smoking cigarettes is something that people use as a stress relief mechanism. So although in your body it doesn't necessarily create a relaxation response, psychologically a lot of people find that smoking cigarettes is how they calm down, how they relieve stress. So we also want to address in treatment through counseling those behavioral aspects of addiction that are really hard to overcome.
Okay, so for those at home, we are watching Veterans Issues with Jessie Brown, VA. We got Aviva, and we're talking about smoking cessation for veterans, and we have a caller. So why don't we take that call?
Yes, hi there. I had a two-part question. What health benefits would a longtime smoker gain by quitting smoking in terms of, feeling better and living longer? And then also, is vaping a healthier alternative to smoking?
Great question, caller. So there's two-pronged question. The first is, what are the health benefits of quitting smoking? Like, what can a person expect to experience in terms of the benefits of smoking cessation? The other is vaping an alternative way to quit smoking, or is it healthier than smoking, and so on and so forth? So I'd love to hear what your answers to those questions.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, caller. I'll start with your first question about, for someone who's been smoking for a very long time, are there still health benefits? And the answer is a resounding yes. The moment that you quit smoking, your body kicks into repairing itself and becoming healthy again. So we see immediate changes within 24, 48 hours to how your body is able to send blood to different areas of your body, how your cells are able to receive oxygen through that blood. And that cascade of positive effects continues week over week. So not only is your lung tissue able to restore itself and lung capacity increases, but by the time you get 10 years down the road, even if you've been smoking for 40, 50 years, your chances of having a cardiac event, of having early death, of having cancer has decreased significantly. And some of the risk factors that you have while you're a smoker go back down to as if you were never a smoker. So the answer is that it is never too late to quit, and there are absolutely health benefits.
Great, because I always heard after 7 years after quitting, your risk for dying from smoking-related issues is the same as someone that's never smoked before.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's some really positive outcomes that can happen from quitting even later in life. To address your other question about e-cigarettes or vaping, so this is a really popular thing that we hear about from our veterans who've said, I hear that this is a safer way to quit smoking, or this is an alternative to smoking that's non-cancerous or not bad for my health. Unfortunately, there's not really much to back that up. So the first issue is that the FDA doesn't regulate any of those companies, such as Juul or other vaping companies. So the truth is that we have no idea what goes into those vape pens or e-cigarettes. And the small amount of research that's out there has indeed found that there are cancer-causing chemicals in those vape cartridges. So that's the concern. We don't know what's in there, and it's very likely that there are still cancer-causing compounds in the vape pen. The other issue is that 5 people a year have those vape pens or those e-cigarettes blow up because they're batteries. So it's a risk you're taking just by having that close to your face, in addition to the long-term health outcomes. So usually our recommendation is that using no type of tobacco product is the safest alternative. But regardless of that, any type of treatment that we offer through the VA, we meet you where you're at. So if you're somebody who has decided that using a vape pen or an e-cigarette is an easier alternative or what you can handle, we'd be happy to work with you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, doctor. Take care.
Thank you for the question. I would also, I heard about popcorn lung that you get from vaping, from the chemicals in there. That kind of this is a very serious condition, puts holes in your lungs. So you might want to Google popcorn lung and see, and that would deter you from vaping.
Yeah.
All right, so You were talking about quitting smoking and, why is it important to quit smoking and what happens when someone quits. So you were talking about all the different, I have it overhead. I just want to show the viewers at home that looks at all the comparative causes of annual deaths in the United States. Maybe the first, you've got AIDS, obesity, alcohol, motor vehicle, homicide, drug-induced suicide, and smoking. And smoking is such a it's bigger than everything else up there except for maybe was that a motor vehicle? Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, people with mental illness and substance use disorders have a much higher likelihood of death than these other categories.
Yeah, what we've found is that smoking cigarettes or tobacco use or nicotine use is the leading preventable cause of death and disability in this country. So we have almost 500,000 premature deaths each year that can be attributed to using cigarettes or other tobacco products. And that's a serious concern, for people who want to live a long, healthy life, that to, be putting yourself at risk for cardiovascular diseases, so, issues with your heart or with your arteries, having a higher risk of stroke, of heart attacks, as well as lung diseases like COPD, chronic bronchitis, emphysema, and then cancer, which we hear a lot about in this country.
Right. So why don't we jump ahead and we'll talk about what services does the VA offer for those interested in quitting. And again, we're from Jessie Brown VA Medical Center, which is on 820. We're located 820 South Damon Avenue, and we have C-Box all over the city and even in northern Indiana, Crown Point. So what services does the VA? What's the VA doing to address veteran smoking?
The VA is doing a lot to address veteran smoking, and we have a number of different programs, which I'd be happy to share about. At the Jessie Brown VA, every Wednesday between 11 and noon, we have an in-person group counseling program. And that's going back to that idea of not only do you want to address the chemical addiction, but the behavioral addiction. So our group counseling, I can share, is just a really lovely, supportive group of veterans of all ages, from all branches of the military, from all eras of service. It's run by health psychologists. And we help veterans identify ways that they can reduce their smoking or quit by identifying what's important to them, what are their goals, what are their motivations. In that group, we have some veterans who've been quit for a while and come back to share their stories of success. We have veterans who've been smoking for anywhere from 10 to 50 years, and most of them have quit multiple times before. We see that a lot in smoking cessation. That's totally normal and, in fact, is part of the process. It's a learning experience. So group counseling is one option that we have for veterans here in Chicago at Jessie Brown. We do that in conjunction with the pharmacy because it's as important to be treating the chemical addiction side of things as well. And we know that when you add nicotine replacement therapy or medications for smoking cessation with counseling, that's your greatest chance for long-term cessation and staying quit.
So a veteran is watching us and they're ready to pull the trigger and quit. How do they get involved in that group or the other services available at Jessie Brown VA Medical Center?
It is easy. So you can tell any single one of your providers, your primary care, a nurse you see, a nutritionist, a mental health provider, and they can immediately get you involved in any of the programs through a consult, or you can walk in. You can walk in during pharmacy open hours.
So no appointment needed?
No appointment
needed. Just walk
needed.
in right off the street? And what day and time is that?
So the pharmacy is open every day, Monday through Friday. So you can walk in during normal business hours, say I'm interested in quitting. What can you do for me? They'll take you through a full evaluation and identify what's going to work for you in terms of patches, gum, lozenges, or prescription
That
medication.
takes place in the pharmacy on the first floor at 820 South Damon Avenue?
That is correct.
Wow, okay.
And then Wednesdays at 11, we have our in-person group. And then there's a bunch of different options for veterans who maybe aren't quite ready to come in person and do treatment, or maybe have issues with transportation. So if you go to smokefree.gov/vet, V-E-T, you'll see a whole host of services available for veterans about smoking cessation. You can also call 855-QUIT-VET for phone services, and they can tell you about everything that they have available as well. That's 855-QUIT-VET.
So, no appointments needed, walk in, phone services. It sounds like there's no excuses.
No excuses.
No excuses. If you want to stop quitting, the VA is there to help you, and we can help you do that today, right now. So, what are other disease and prevention services offered at the VA? We have a few minutes left, so callers, we have over the next 5 minutes, your last chance. If you have any burning questions, we have our expert here, our health psychology expert, Aviva, and we're going to answer your questions. But what are some other disease prevention services offered at the Jessie Brown VA Medical Center?
We have a wonderful program at the Jessie Brown VA Medical Center, both available in person and through telehealth options to the C-Box. So, quitting smoking is just one way that you can improve your health. Another way would be through joining our MOVE program, which is our weight management program for veterans, where we address different challenges involving exercise and diet and finding a lifestyle that works for veterans and works for a person as an individual. So we've got weekly MOVE groups at several different times. We also have the TeleMove program where you meet by phone or one-on-one through telehealth with a health coach. We have individual and group treatment available for veterans who struggle with insomnia or trouble sleeping. That's something that psychological treatment has been shown to be not only as effective as sleep medications, but lasts longer and doesn't have any rebound or side effects. We have programs for veterans who have sleep apnea and are having trouble getting used to using that CPAP or APAP mask. It can be very uncomfortable, especially for veterans who have PTSD and may be triggered by that feeling. We have a group where we work with veterans to figure out how can they get used to their CPAP and really reach their goals in terms of that. So all of these sorts of groups are available, again, in person, or there are telehealth options available as well.
That's amazing. I'm so happy to see all the resources available. And for you watching at home, just, call us, 1-800-569-VETS, VETS. Or check us out. We're on Facebook, Chicago VA.gov. I think we're on Twitter and Instagram as well. So, Aviva, this is the last segment of the show, and we're going to get to know you. I call it rapid fire.
Oh.
So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and you're going to free associate and let me know the first thing that pops in your mind.
Okay.
And some of these are related to health, and others are not. So, what is your favorite healthy food?
Oh, salad. I like salads.
Okay. What's the worst job you ever had?
Oh. I worked in a bathing suit store as a manager for a while, and that was pretty rough.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And what is your guilty junk food pleasure?
Oh, I love junk food. I'm all about balance. Chocolate. I would eat anything that's chocolate. Last night we went to the local freezy place, and I got a milkshake.
Awesome. So what in your life are you most grateful for?
I'm really grateful for my friends and family. They've been very supportive through my education to become a health psychologist.
Okay. If you could invite anyone to dinner to share a healthy meal, who would that be?
Oh my gosh.
And why?
I think I would invite Michelle Obama, since she had this big initiative about getting this country on a healthier track. I'd love to pick her brain and maybe share a chocolate milkshake with her.
Awesome. So, Aviva, I wanted to thank you again. You were successful, and you've completed the mission. The rapid fire is over, and again, you're watching CAN TV. We're from Jessie Brown. We're going to be here the fourth Thursday of the next month, of every month, talking about veterans issues. So stay tuned for our next show that comes on, and goodbye for now.